Yeah, hi everyone. Just a brief introduction to me. Like I say, I'm Johnny Denton or Jonathan Denton, depending on what you want to call me. I've done a number of years at Sage, starting in '97. Have left and come back, but more recently been spending about the last just over 6 years in our partner channel, working with our Sage 200 partners like Smith Cooper. So first of all, this is me. I will be going off webcam because it's not a great face to look at permanently, and we'll keep the bandwidth down. But just wanted to say hello and also thank you for joining. I'll echo Chris's sentiments. There's well over where we were up to, over 100 people on this call now, 101 people I think are on there, which, if you take us 5 off, means that the attendance is absolutely fabulous. So it's fabulous to come along and talk to you, get moving, see if there's some things in the software that, you can see, certainly from a point of view of where you sit. Obviously, with the number of people that are on this call, we've sort of took a decision as to how far back in the 200 journey to go. So there may be things here that you see that you already use or are already aware of, but there may be things that are in a version that you already have that you're not actually, you didn't know exist. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, so it's an opportunity for me at least to tell you what we've done, and then just give you a little bit of an idea of where we're taking Sage 200 moving forward and what's happening to it and what is the vision. I'm not in product marketing or product management. I'm obviously in enablement, so I can only tell you what I know, but I'll give you an insight certainly as to what's happening. I'll move and just stop sharing. So a little bit of an agenda. We'll go through what we call product release cadence, so we'll give you an idea of what versions of being released and when, and then more importantly, what actual features are actually in those particular versions, so you'll be able to resonate sort of where you are in that journey. And then we'll have a look at some of the features. Obviously, I'm on a tight schedule from a point of view of I've got a set time, so I would love to spend all day talking about Sage 200 with you, but appreciate that's not feasible. But we'll allude to some little nuggets and give you an idea of what's there, and then we'll just talk a little bit about the roadmap to just give you an idea as where is Sage 200 going, and also what's in the Sage 200 family. Okay, like I say, I'll be very brief on that, but I do have a nice little demonstration for you around that, so you'll get an idea of sort of where we're going. And like I say, it's pretty exciting, especially if you think about where we are from a cloud perspective and the sort of demands that we have as consumers and as users and companies, of where we want to take the products and what we're using today. We're all using cloud technology, so we'll talk about that a little bit. So this is just a little bit of an overview. Now, I've started this sort of, towards the back end of 2018. There was a lot of customers upgraded for things like the, making tax digital legislation that came out. So we know that a lot of customers upgraded from earlier versions of 200 to get on a product that was compatible with the MTD submissions process. But we also know that there was a lot of customers who decided to take up the opportunity to purchase the module from us and therefore not upgrade the software. So we do know that we've got a number of customers who are on pre-versions of 2018, and I believe from talking to Chris this week that he is their business. Smith Cooper have sent emails out or correspondence out to anyone on this call who was sort of on 2017 specifically, because that's coming up to sort of it's in an end of life cycle. So it's worth speaking to those guys and have a look. Obviously, we're up now on the 22nd of December. So a little bit of an insight for you. When we refer to things like summer, spring, winter, they were how we actually reported on the variant of the product that came out. So summer, if you're on summer 2018, or you bought, that's how we sort of did it. What we've done in 2020 is we've changed that. So we've gone with the year and the number of releases in that year. So if you look at 2020, 3rd of March, the first release of 2020 came out, which was release 1 or R1, and the second release of Sage 200 Professional came out on the 22nd of December, which is Pro, which was 2020 R2. There is a couple of green blocks in there, and I just want to explain this because most of you, if not all of you on this call, will be using the Sage 200 Professional product, which is the product that has been out a lot of years, and it's where the majority of our Sage 200 customers sit. We have released a product called Sage 200 Cloud Standard, which is a scaled down version of Professional, and I'll sort of show you a slide later on as to actually what the two differences are. We have had two slightly different release cadences from Pro. We used to release Pro and Standard at the same time, but you'll see on the 16th of September and 3rd of November for our Standard and Education customers, we actually brought out two additional releases. So that's how they're sort of termed, R2, R3, and R4 in line with 2020. That was all around web forms, by the way, and again, I'll talk to you about that. So what you'll see is that we went from a journey of releasing 3 releases in a year to then only sort of going into 2 in 2020. So we reduced the number of releases, and you'll see why. If it hasn't already been alluded to on a later slide, maybe as we talked when we last got together, because obviously I've done a few events on this, so some of you may already know what that's about, but I'll enlighten you to that. Obviously the 22nd of December one was pivotal because there were Brexit implications in that, Brexit needs for that as well. All right. So let's have a little bit of a look back. So like I say, I'll start back in summer 2018, and then we'll work through them. And then what we'll do is we'll jump into software, and we'll have a little bit of a demonstration on some of those. So way back in summer 2018, all around the payment strategy and allowing customers to get paid faster, we integrated Sage 200 with Stripe and PayPal, which effectively gave a pay now button on an invoice that a customer could click on and pay you. So it was a sort of an invite there to say, pay me through that portal and make sure we get paid on time. We also introduced something called Go Cardless Preview. Now, what that meant was that Go Cardless allowed customers to collect direct debits. So the idea is you would sign up for a direct debit, and then when it comes to the due date of the invoice, the direct debit would be collected and put into your bank, and then obviously you would then import that into Sage 200. At the original summer release, we only went with a preview, which was effectively only if you could only use it if you already had an existing Go Cardless account. That was the initial sort of introduction. Cross-sell and suggested items. So when we're selling something to a customer, let us have a look at some of the cross-sell opportunities that we might have, and also suggested items. So there's an option to go in and have a look at some of the suggested items you could offer to a customer, and also cross-sell items. What it's like, you do a bit of shopping, online, customer X also bought these. So it's sort of giving you the opportunity sort of, increase the sale value by sort of talking to the customer about some suggested and cross-sell items. Customer alerts was introduced to the product in various areas. So give an alert, for example, when a sales order is put on. So if there's something you want to track, then there's an alert can pop up. Like I say, there's other areas of the product that does that. We started our document capture process. So we started talking about how we're going to attach documents to transactions in certain areas of the program. So you can obviously look at a transaction, then have a look at a document behind it. Maybe it's a purchase, it's an order or something like that you've attached to an invoice. And then we increased the spooler. So we allowed things like filtering on spooler transactions. So if you use the spooler, you can start to filter in. Won't go through every single one of these, but again, there you go. So the Go Cardless full launch, that basically means you can create a new Go Cardless account and then set a direct debit up. We have a relationship with Microsoft 365. So Microsoft have something called a Power Platform. So we introduced a connector that allowed Sage 200 to talk to the Microsoft Power Platform and then on board, and then you can start to harness what Microsoft call the Power Apps technology, Microsoft Flow, or what it's now known as Power Automate. And we also have, on a later release, Microsoft Power BI, which is a real powerful reporting tool Microsoft have, and we can connect that into Sage 200. Improved audit capability. So one of the real questions I find, and I'm sure it resonates with a lot of you on this call already, is that, we want to know when someone changes things like bank details, so go into a supplier, change your bank details, please keep an audit log of when that happened, so I can have a look at who changed the bank details, and also what they changed them to, so we can go in and have a look. Anyone who does free text purchase ordering, One of the challenges were that you may use free text as a stock item, although be it not necessarily a product that you put in or a SKU that you put in your stock list. So we gave the customers the ability to say, well, if you're bringing something in, you can specify for reporting what warehouse particularly that would go into on a free text purchase order line, where previously it wasn't available. This one's a real great one. So it's a dynamic homepage, and the dynamic homepage basically is the opening screen that Sage 200 opens up if you haven't set a particular page to be your homepage, and it gives you information about what's happening. So it sort of gives you information about things like, when MTD was out, there was MTD details. There's information about Sage City. There's information about some ISVs that are out there. So ISV partners like Steve and Zoe's companies and others on there. So we're basically giving you a page with various what's the best word for it? Almost like try to think of the right term, almost like blocks, where it'll surface some information. And then we put some enhancements into our purchase requisitions. So we have a purchase requisition option where we put some enhancements into that. Accounting period. So anyone who does financial month ends, you know that you can close down certain areas of the system to the nominal, so things like sales into the nominal, purchase into the nominal, cash book, etc. One of our wish lists from customers was the ability to close all periods in one go. So some customers like the idea of closing them as they go, because they could sort of start off with month ends and sort of get to a point where once they've done it all, they've closed them all, but they're doing them in turn. Other customers want to just go, look, I've done the month end, I just want to press a button and close all those down without going through the 5 options manually. So again, we put that in. Again, linking into 365 and using the cloud storage, we have the ability to reprint a remittance. So if you print a remittance and you haven't put it in the spooler, you could go back and reprint a remittance as long as you were storing it in the cloud storage, because you would then go in there and obviously get a reprint, and obviously we would put that into that particular area for you. And then restrict key information. So if we go back to winter, one of the things I mentioned was the audit capability. Well, maybe it's just as a user, you just want to remove the bank tab from the supplier screen full stop. And that's what that does. That would mean that if you have that feature attached to your role, when you logged in and looked at a supplier account, the bank tab just wouldn't be there at all. So CIS legislation, we obviously put that in, but appreciate that legislation was pushed out. So although that was put in, obviously that has been pushed out. Bank rec, this is one of the things I am going to show you again, wish list item, partial bank rec ability. So how can I partially bank rec a transaction, and how can I also see the URN or the unique reference number, the audit trail number of that particular transaction. So we've took that on board, and that was put in the product in the summer 19 release. For any developers out there, we have an API, and as we develop the software moving forward, the API onboarding was improved, but also obviously more fields from a development point of view. So we opened up more fields in the software, and that's a theme that's been happening throughout the versions moving forward, and it's really relevant to our future strategy, and that sort of comes together for that. List views, so custom supplier details on your list views. And user notification, this is a great one. When someone is in a feature or in a screen or a form that contradicts something that you want to do, you get locked out. So this tells you why. So this would say someone is in a particular screen, so at least you know why you can't get into a feature that you're going into. A little pop-up box pops up. 2020 R1, so going back to the end of 2020, this wasn't really a feature release as such, but we did release things like CRM 2020 R1. We did bring out a new connector for our Power Platform and our Microsoft integrations. We did obviously do work around the opening banking requirements, work around MTD and the module, and we also tested Microsoft SQL Server 2019 as well. So that was in our 1, and then our 2 more recently, back end of sort of 22nd of December, if I remember rightly, was Brexit, introduced into Opea, which was formerly known as SagePay. So that's now Opea. And in the R2 and the R3 and R4 releases of standard, we obviously put some web forms in there, so you can probably tell where I'm sort of transitioning you to from a roadmap perspective by mentioning the word web forms. Okay, but we released, so if you remember those green boxes on the previous slide, they were us introducing some web forms to our customers in our standard and our education variant. The screens are still there as is, but we were giving the customer the ability to use some web forms. So we'll jump in. What I'm going to show is I'm just going to briefly show you some of the ones that are highlighted there. So we'll go and have a look at the cross-sell suggested items, a bit on customer alerts, the audit features, bit on Microsoft BI, so to show you what that looks like, accounting periods, restricting information, and having a look at bank rec and user notifications. Like I say, there are features prior to summer 2018, and there is a document, a knowledge base article. If anyone is on an earlier version, they can have a look at what's out there. But like I say, this is where we're sort of going to transition to. So hopefully, let me just make for that to wake up. Am I sharing the same screen? I am. This is going, but not talk too soon. This is going all great. And no, the dog hasn't barked and no one's knocked on the door with a parcel, so everything's good. This is the starting home page. So this is what I was sort of alluding to with the tiles is the word. With the dynamic home page. So we'll just transition through. So if we look at something like maintain accounting periods, we have the option now to click close all. And we can now go back through and close all of them. So if you're a user thinking, yeah, that's something that would, apply to me, I don't necessarily close sales down first and then do debtor reconciliations, etc., and then move through purchase, cash book, stock, and nominal. I want to just close them all down in one go. Then that is a feature for you. And you've probably noticed I went a little bit quick, but there is just simply an additional button called close now, and that is effectively there. So this will wake up. Brilliant. And you'll see that period 10, our January month, has now had that all closed. So again, just a little bit of feature, and again, coming back from customer feedback. So, please do feed in through the Sage City option or through Smith Cooper if you do have any wish list items, because again, it's important that we understand what our customers are looking for. Here's one I prepared earlier. So if we have a look at our view audit log, this is just, again, a screen where we can look for changes in requisitions and also changes in bank details. So if I just literally display this, what I did first thing this morning was literally just go into one of our supplier bank accounts, and I just literally changed the old value from 010203 to 030201, and vice versa, 128 to 821. So that's just given me an idea that someone went in and made amendments to that, and obviously you can run reports off the back of that as well. So that's just giving me a little bit of a safety blanket that I can actually have a go in there and have a look if I would like to. If I just close the product down slightly and just show you the system administration window. So if anyone is not familiar with this, this is just an admin area where we administer things like users and companies and so on within our Sage 200 product. But we also have roles that each individual user of Sage 200 belongs to, and that really drives the feature that a person is going to get, or features when they log in. So it's basically what can they see, what can they do, and there is literally an additional one at the bottom called bank details. Okay, so if I just set myself against that particular role, so I'm not administrator anymore. Where am I, Jonathan? I'm there. I'll just apply that. There's probably going to be no guesses for what you're going to expect. I all sort of alluded, but you'll see when we log in that everything is as is from a point of view of the menus, etc. But if we sort of have a look, we now see that Atlas actually doesn't have a bank field in there. Yeah. So that just means that we can't change the bank details. So again, a little bit of options. Do you want to change, allow someone to change it and then look at what they've changed it to, or just want to remove that completely from a particular user? I will stay in the product as now, and I don't believe anything will impact. So that's a little bit on there. If we have a look at our customer list and we have a look at something like Abbey Retail, we now have a tab called alerts, and I've just simply said, please remember to get a purchase order number. And we have the ability to specify where in the software this well, first of all, whether it's active, and also where, when I'm transacting inside Sage 200, does this pop-up appear? So, where will it appear or where won't it? So for certain areas you don't want it to appear, then obviously you can use those tick boxes accordingly as you wish. If we look at our particular stock list, so we're going to have a look at this washer. Have a look at a quick item. You'll see that we have a cross-sell option. I could have probably been a little more descriptive, but ultimately what I'm saying is if I want to look at cross-selling, I can suggest that the customer also buys a dishwasher slimline. But you can sort of get the idea of what would happen in real life if you would have actually cross-sell items on there, hats with gloves, torches with batteries, that sort of thing. So what could you look at from a point of view of selling into the customer? This is where you would put those in. We do have alternatives as well. That's not necessarily in these versions, but again, an alternative you could offer the customer if either you didn't have stock or you were sort of seeing what else you could offer at a point of view of selling. This is sales orders. So we have now a sales assistant tab in there where we can sort of set some parameters. So this is linked into our cross-sell and suggested items. So do I want to use frequently and recently ordered items and preferred items? If I do, for the frequently and recently ordered items, how far back do I want to go? So in other words, it's just giving you an idea of when I suggest something to you, how far back do you want to look? Going back 90 days from recently ordered, that might be too far back. You might want to reduce that. We might want to increase that. So that's just the parameter the system works to from a point of view when you're looking at that and surfacing it from a sales order screen. I'm in a purchase order there, aren't I? Yeah, beg your pardon. I'm getting excited and getting ahead of myself. So sales order screen. So there's the alert for a start. So that's, going back to what I said. So now I'm going to relate to make sure that I get that from my customer. I had a bit of a funny date on that one, but so I can go add items. I can add my particular item. That's where I can see the alternative. But at the bottom, I've got save and cross-sell. So I can also have a look at the cross-sell items. And I can choose whether I want to do anything with that. So I could say to the customer, oh, by the way, would you like? And then we can add that. Or on our main screen, we can just simply click selected items and we can start filtering out. This is demo data. So, it's obviously got a lot of data in there. So I'm just going to go into our product group, which is whiteware, and now I'm obviously just filtering it down by product group. But again, on the fly here, I could also reduce the days from the parameter or the default that you saw earlier in the sales orders. And it's just simply a case of if the customer would like to take up the opportunity of doing, increasing their sales or buying some additional items, then it's just simply a case of, starting at the top and then just literally just dropping them down. So a great way of sort of increasing your order value just by literally surfacing some of this information and presenting it to the customer as part of your sales process. We won't save that order. Come on, a little bit slow. All right, great. So we will go back to a new purchase order screen. And again, you simply have a warehouse bar. So again, just reading the warehouses that you might have if you're buying a free text, what you're classing as a free text item. You can specify technically the warehouse that it would go into depending on what it is that you're buying. And again, that's just an additional data entry field. Bank reconciliation, again, wish list item. So if we pick our bank, you'll see on my top line, I have already got an item that is £158.33, but I've partially paid £100. So it's telling me, Jonathan, you have £58.33 left to reconcile on that line, and the status is part because obviously it's already been part. And you just simply just click on it, put the value in you want, match it, reconcile it, and when we next go in, we've obviously got the same item. A little tip for you, if you are going to start using this, and it's a trap I keep falling into, the amount to reconcile is 0. So you wouldn't know how much to put in because it's part until you tick the box on the left. So just do remember, a little free tip for you. Just tick the box so it lets you know how much is left to reconcile. Because like I say, when I first started demoing this, I kept forgetting and going, well, how do I know how much I've got left? That's not ideal. So it's just a little tip for you. Again, probably not as stupid as me, but that's sort of that's the sort of trap that I sort of fell in. Last is our reporting. So this is just Power BI desktop, and this is just simply a sample report that we've created for demonstration purposes. And it is just literally looking at the Sage 200 data. So it's just looking at things like customers and then looking at some of the metrics behind these customers. Nothing out of the ordinary at the top. You can obviously start filtering here. You can start filtering down here. You can start look at sales information. So, current year, previous year revenues, all great analytical stuff that really businesses really want to get under the skin of. So that's, this is just like I say, an example. This just connects into our API. So again, depending on what you've got from a Microsoft perspective and licensing wise and cost wise determines how you can use this, but there's great things you can do with Power BI and share across the organization. Like I say, this is just literally the desktop which I've just opened up and I'm just looking at it in isolation to me, but there are ways of collaborating and sharing across the business dashboards like this. Okay, well, let's just want to show you that we do have the connector into Power BI. So whereas there are a lot of great reports in the software and reporting capabilities, wrapped around it, this is something that a customer can use by using our connector. If you use our connector, it just means that the fields are a little bit more user-friendly in the API than it would be if you connected directly to SQL database. But again, Chris and his team can sort of pick that up with you. Just we want to show that because reporting is really a key element of Sage 200, and obviously you as customers' needs. Okay, so just a quick whistle stop tour. I know that was really quick, but like I say, I know we're sort of we want the time and we want to we don't want to keep you forever. But like I say, I could have gone into a lot of these. So please have a look at the have a think about what's on here, have a think about the versions you've got, and obviously reach out to the guys at Smith Group and talk about what other features are knocking about that maybe you're interested in looking at. So the next one is a little bit on the roadmap. So I alluded to earlier that we've released only 2 in the year 2020, and that's because there's development going on around the Sage 200 product. So the first one is I just want to give you an overview on the variants because I think this is important just so you get an idea of what I've been referring to around web forms and previous and what Sage have got in our kit bag from a product perspective. So we do have a product called Sage 200 Cloud Standard. This is a product that is in the cloud hosted in a Microsoft Azure multi-tenant environment. So that means that a customer taking the opportunity to use this product will always be on the latest version because we deploy a multi-tenanted version. So as we release these products, we just send notifications out and we do an update. And obviously when the customer logs in, it does a little bit of an update onto their system and they see all the features. It is used by a little application that's downloaded onto your machine, but we use Microsoft Azure and we look after that using some technology that we've got to host that. All right. There is like customization. So we only have the API available. So there is a very small number of ISVs that actually wrap around this, but it serves a purpose. It serves a certain type of customer. It puts the customer in a cloud environment. It means that they can get moving, but obviously there wouldn't necessarily limitations, but there are not the same features that are in professional. There isn't the same capability. It's ideal for customers who want to move from their current product but aren't necessarily ready for professional yet. So it's a sort of an option to get onto that platform and move up, and that's there, like I say, today, and has been for for a while now. So this is not new. We have it in our private and public sector because we have an education variant of this as well, which obviously appeals to schools. And then this is where most, if not all of you will sit. You will sit in the professional world. Right, that's what you've got, and this is predominantly what we're talking about today. And currently in today's world, it's an on-premise product. So you have a server potentially in the corner of your room, or you have the choice of having the server in the corner of your office that you can see and touch, and that's where your data sits, and that's what our Sage 200 product connects into. We have our second option, which is where you may have a Sage 200 data set in the cloud, and some of you may have it with Smith Cooper already, or another. But effectively, what it means is that you can use a third-party product to host the cloud offering yourself or through the partner. Nothing to do with Sage. We still deploy an on-premise product to the partner to install for you, but you use external technology to actually put it into the cloud. Okay. So what are we doing moving forward? Because we need to still give choice, but we need to sort of move into more of a cloud-based world. So we are currently in development of a web-enabled Sage 200 product, okay? And I'm going to show you that in a sec. I've already alluded to the fact that we've already started the journey with our standard release, and we've already deployed some of those to our customers already. So we are creating web forms. So the Sage 200 product will be a web browser-based data entry process. We will give you the choice of data deployment. So we already talked about the fact that on-premise is there, the third-party option is there, but we will also offer what we call Sage 200 on Azure. Okay, so browser-based client entry, choice of data deployment, great accessibility standards. So what that effectively means that because we're going into a browser, we can have different sizes, we can have different technology. So you could effectively run this on a tablet, okay, depending on obviously the supported browsers and so on. But you could run it on an iPad, for example, or another tablet. Okay, so we're moving away from having desktop data entry because we don't necessarily, well, we won't have an actual install as such put on your client machine. So again, we're working into different technology stacks. We will still look at our accounting capability, so we'll still go through and simplify our user experience. We will still look at accounting processes. Because we're developing these web forms, we're using our API. So again, apologies if this is hard, too sort of complicated or too in depth for you, but any sort of developers or anyone out there who has an understanding what the API means, it means that the development opportunities are only going to get better from an API perspective because we're going to open up more of the API. So we're going to increase the capability of being able to write into the areas of the product because we're using the API in order to actually surface these web forms. And in order to do that, that will give more capability through our Office 365 process. And the very last one is that if we feel it necessary, we may go to market with some vertical specific propositions. Okay, so that's something that we might do. But the real takeaway for me is that we're moving to a cloud-based web browser type process with our Sage 200 Professional. So this is where we're transitioning to take a lot of you guys already. So the roadmap really is this. I've already mentioned that Sage 200 Cloud Standard is already in Azure. It's already in the cloud, so the data is already up there. So what we've been doing this last year was in those extra releases, we were surfacing and releasing the web forms to the customers. So anyone on standard or on education, we're giving the option to either use what was there or use the equivalent in the web form. So we were giving the web form capability. So as we were developing them, our release cadence was to release them and give them to the customers and say, here's some web forms, here's some web forms. We've obviously already got those created. We haven't deployed them to professional, but obviously we're building them in the background, and obviously they're going to be the same ones. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the data deployment, and we're going to use our infrastructure already, or our capability in what we're doing with the platform that we use for standard to actually do something similar with Sage 200 Professional. The slight difference is that the partner will manage that, but it will be using, like I say, it will be Sage 200 Cloud on Azure. I can't really say much more than that because, to be honest, I don't know much more than that, so I can't really tell you other than there is a third option coming down the line, which ultimately means that we'll just give another choice from a cloud perspective. So web browser, data deployment in the cloud. If you want to carry on the way you're doing it now, that's absolutely fine. We will obviously continue looking at core features. We will obviously continue an eye on, compliance, and we will obviously do product fixes as well. So if there's a need to do something in the software to correct something, we will do, and obviously we'll monitor Brexit as well. All right, so that's just exciting times from a professional point of view, great times from a standard point of view, because like I say, our customers are already seeing the benefit of this already. So what I'll do is I'll quickly, if you give me 30 seconds, I just gotta get this up and running because it's closed my browser down. So
Johnny, just while you're doing that, I'll just jump in.
go on.
We've got quite a few questions coming in, so what I'll do, I'm kind of replying to them directly as they're coming in, but what I'll do, I'll run down the list. I'm replying to people sort of privately and as they're asking the questions, but when Johnny's finished, I'll quickly whiz down all the questions we've had, because there's one or two good ones, and I'll just talk through them to everybody at the end.
Brilliant, thank you, Chris. Okay, so just like I say, these are in standard, or some of these are in standard already. But this is literally where we're transitioning to. So we're transitioning to a web portal where down the left-hand side we will have our, our menus. So again, they're obviously not all there because we're in development at the minute. But again, if we look across and have a look at our customer list, we've now got a list of customers. Hopefully, that should pop up. There we go. So if we pick someone, we can go and have a look at things like transaction inquiries. So it's following the same theme that you currently know. Transactions in the middle, only outstanding, and then instead of having the drop down in the inquiry screen, we've obviously got things like the breakdown from a point of view of allocations and so on. So similar, same thing, just displayed in a slightly different way. So this is sort of what they're looking like. Like I say, we're on a journey. So these will be going into professional. Like I say, they're already available from a point of view of standard already. So again, this is what you're effectively going to be seeing. Now, if I just hopefully get a chance to, so I'm juggling so many screens. If I get a chance to sort of move across, and we'll get rid of that annoying little box, you'll also see that this is just me simulating. So I'm actually on a tablet here. So I'm sitting on an actual iPad. So you can see that I'm moving through exactly the same thing. Now, one of the things that is a differentiator in here is the ability to actually transact, not necessarily in the same screens that you're using, but there's some extra functionality. So an example is this: if I go into stock control, the managed stock take is slightly different. I've got to log in. Let me just move across on my screen. So I've got to copy and paste the logins in from another screen. Give me a sec. This is obviously on the desktop behind me in the same way, but just to give you an idea of, one of the slight differences is that currently in a stock tail function, if you're not using an ISV add-on, it effectively means that typically a business will print stock sheets out and will give it to someone to go around their warehouse and actually write on a bit of paper, the quantities, and then come back to the office, and then someone will obviously do the necessary adjustments and make those amendments inside Sage 200. So this just gives me the option, if I was walking around the warehouse, to actually go into a particular stock take and actually start to type figures in. So I could actually start to type figures into the box and return later. So that was just a very quick overview for you to sort of show you what the web forms will potentially, they will look like. But an example of the stock take, where we're actually added some additional functionality that we can surface on walk around the warehouse and actually type some figures in. Okay. So that was a little bit on Sage 200. I just wanted to sort of take this opportunity just to go back to something Chris mentioned at the very start when he was talking about Smith Cooper's transition into a complementary product for Sage. In other words, going into to looking to get involved in another product. Sage's vision is obviously to move into the cloud, which is why obviously Sage 200 is moving that way. But for those that didn't know, we acquired a product called Intact, and obviously is now Sage Intact, which we now resell in other countries, but also in the UK. And it's a full cloud native financial management product. it has been cloud native since the day that it was born back in 1999. So just wanted to let people know what that is, because you might have seen this pop up on, on marketing campaigns and so on, and wondered what it is. So way back in 1999, we were wondering what was going to happen when we switched over to 2000. This product was born as a native cloud product from the first day it was born. It is built. It's finance built for finance. So that's its mantra, and it's very much a case of best of breed or best in class. So what we do is we build out a really powerful what we call best in class financial management solution, and then we plug in opportunities through our development to actually allow customers to actually plug in third-party products. We don't want to compete with the best CRM products out there. We want to give you the ability to plug into the best CRM software. So it's very much about giving the customer choice. In a similar way that, Stephen's already going to talk about complementary products for Sage 200, it's a similar mantra. We'll give you really powerful financial reporting. So we will look at things like dimensional accounting. We will look at things like multi-entities, but it's a product, like I say, full cloud, very much based on certain specific industries. And it's designed really for the finance heads and CFOs to basically be able to look forward, not run a month end, at backwards information, then decide what they want to do. So it's all about looking forward and really getting out the product what you want to get out by, like I say, surfacing dimensional accounting, surfacing some unbelievable dashboards and reporting, all for real-time decision making. So that was just a quick, not so much a plug, but I just wanted to we wanted just to let you know that if you see something out there, or you wonder what Intact's about, or you've heard about it, just want to quickly tell you in a real 2 minutes that it's just a product that sits alongside, from a point of view of our medium space, it's a product that is for specific customers, in the same way Sage 200 is for specific customers. So it's just a choice factor. So thank you very much for listening. I've literally come on 1 minute late, but I think I was about 2 minutes late starting, so I think we'll call that 30 minutes there. We'll call that 45 minutes, Mr. Smith. So thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that. Okay, we've got a kind of a 10-minute comfort break here. I'm just, I'll tell you one thing, I set myself up for a fall here, because when I kind of joked at the start to say, oh, you never ask questions, but I bet you asked loads today, you've not let me down. But so there's quite a few here that are on there. I might just whiz down these, because I think it's 2 minutes. I'm just going to whiz through these super quick. Can Sage 200 Professional be hosted on Azure? So yeah, it can. We've got people who are already doing that. Going forward, you'll be able to source that through Sage, but there's absolutely no reason why you can't source that yourself today, and we've got people doing that. Can we ditch the adverts on the homepage on the first login, from John? Johnny, I think you can set the default homepage to be a list view, can't you? So it doesn't go to the adverts.
Yeah, exactly right. So was that John? Yeah. So John, if you, the idea is that's a starting point, but we understand, like you say, that once you've seen that page, you might not want it to keep popping up. Yeah. So if you right click on any list view, so if you were to expand, like right click on your customer list, you can say make home page, and then when your Sage 200 opens up, that's the page that it obviously starts with.
Yeah, thanks, Johnny. Okay, yeah, this is a great question from Rod. So obviously what Johnny spoke about there is a lot about cloud and cloud screens and stuff. That is absolutely not the death of on-premise Sage 200. So what you will get is a deployment choice. So all we're doing is presenting the screens in a browser. For those of you who've seen Sage CRM, it's the same idea. So just because the screens are in a browser, we get the option to do, of course, to have remote access. But if you are just working on a local area network in the traditional way, it's absolutely fine to carry on doing that. So it's not, what we're not saying is that on-premise is over and finished. It's just a different deployment option, giving you a little bit more flexibility. Rolling down here, we've got a couple of people asking about sound. You can dial in on your phone. So if you are struggling with audio, there is a phone number, I think, on the joining instructions as well. Question about period control. So Johnny's new feature on period control doesn't change anything in period control. All it does is gives you the ability to close periods in one hit. So everything that the periods already do in terms of, locking things down or being able to open them up if you've got the access rights, posting something with a date of the previous period and the new period if that period's closed, that's all the same. All it is a quick kind of one button press to close all periods in one hit. What else we got? Question there about Intact, which we'll pick up later. What we got there? Yeah, somebody mentioned about bank feeds. So bank feeds have been around for a while. All the main kind of high street banks are covered. You need to just talk to us directly about the bank that you use, and we'll pick that up. Just part of the thought, there has been a little bit of interruption around Brexit with that, in terms of some certification with the banks and the the various partners who pass these transactions around. So but yeah, definitely, if you want to do bank feeds, just talk to us, and we can pick that up.